After the killing of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani, Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and some smaller Palestinian factions have condemned the killing as a U.S. crime and say this won't stop them in their fight against Israel. Well, in a statement, Hamas offered condolences to the Iranian people over the death of Soleimani, saying he, quote, played a prominent role in supporting the Palestinian resistance in various fields. As Hamas mourns the commander, Soleimani, and the martyrs of the American raid, it also extends its condolences to the Iraqi people for the martyrdom of a number of their sons as a result of the treacherous American raid. And to talk more about this, former MP George Galloway joins me now. George, first things first, your initial reaction to this news overnight. What was your initial reaction? And from your perspective now, how does the world see the U.S. at this moment?
Well, the whole world is a more dangerous place than it was yesterday when we last talked. I learned of this in the middle of the night, our time, around 3 a.m., and I tweeted that it had opened the gates of hell. And I think that that's exactly what will now happen. There will be an ocean of blood shed as a result of this international crime that the United States has instituted in a foreign country, one which, moreover, they have very limited rights in. Those rights may now disappear as the Iraqi parliament now decides whether or not they're allowed to remain there. But the danger is not just there in the Persian Gulf. As you just indicated in your introduction, the danger is now in the Levant, in Israel, Palestine, Lebanon, Syria. The complications of all this will be played out there in perhaps a very deadly, fatal way. But of course, everywhere, American citizens, for example, are in much greater danger today than they were yesterday. This was worse than a crime. It was a blunder, and a blunder of incalculable proportions.
And George, you know, President Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, said way back when that he was actually working on a peace deal when he went and visited Israel shortly after Donald Trump moved the Jerusalem, or the capital of Israel from, or excuse me, the U.S. embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Do you think this killing now officially closes the door of any hope between a U.S. and a Palestinian relationship?
I don't think it was ever open. Donald Trump is in such a relationship with the Netanyahu wing of politics in Israel that anything being sold by Jared Kushner was inherently unsellable. Frankly, I wouldn't buy a used car from Jared Kushner, never mind a solution to the intractable century or so of problems on the Israel-Palestine track, but definitely dead and buried today, as so much else is. The existing status quo in the politics of Lebanon will be gravely affected by this, and that, of course, will have its knock-on effect in Syria. I would have thought that Bahrain is the one to keep an eye on. Faran, the situation there is already combustible, and it's probably the place where the Iranians will seek to retaliate. That's my prediction. It's an overwhelmingly Shia country, leans towards Iran. It has a tiny, narrow Sunni monarchy, and it has British and American naval bases on the small island. It's joined by a causeway to the overwhelmingly Shia eastern province of Saudi Arabia. If I was looking for the optimal place where trouble will first break out, I'd look at Bahrain.
And George, you know, we are in the year of a 2020 presidential election where Donald Trump could be reelected. We also are looking at people like Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, who's very much for Palestine. Going forward, depending upon who the president is here in the United States, what do you see happening? What do you see going forward for those here in the U.S. and what could potentially be a major fallout or, you know, something possible peace talks, depending upon if it's a Democrat that gets in office?
Well, you know, Faran, if you'd asked me yesterday, I would have said that Donald Trump was on track for re-election, unless the Democrats pick Bernie Sanders. probably quite an easy re-election. But I think that what happened in the early hours today has changed everything because it has, first of all, lost a part of Donald Trump's base that believed him when he said that he didn't want to go around the world making war like his Democratic predecessors had done. It has emboldened, I would have thought, the Democrats to challenge Trump on something much more meaningful than the Ukraine gate or Russia gate, but on the abuse of presidential power to make war, essentially, because this is an act of war against a country with 80 million people, more than half of them under the age of 30, a strong country, militarily strong, culturally and religiously strong. It's a very, very foolish act by Donald Trump. And the fact that he has not probably understood just what a risk he has taken is, I think, speaks volumes about his ability to be the president. So Iran will answer this. They will make the earth shake in more than one place. And the United States presumably will be under pressure to further retaliate against the retaliation. And therefore, events might spin so dramatically out of control that you just might see Donald Trump impeached by the Senate after all, and certainly going into November gravely, gravely wounded.
All right, well, George, we will continue to monitor the situation. We thank you for your time, and I'm sure we'll be discussing this more with you further. Thanks so much, George.